This list will include various subgenres like urban fantasies, historical fantasies, high fantasies, experimental fantasies, supernatural fantasies and more. If you guys help me get to about 2000 subscribers, I'll make a similar video but for science fiction. Now let us begin. One Piece. The most imaginative epic fantasy created in Japan. It's the best adventure story. If you haven't seen it and you're kind of intimidated by its length, take your time and just enjoy the journey. Which hat it clear? This is the manga that screams fantasy and magic louder than anything else. It's got beautiful artwork, beautiful magic system. It's a beautiful series in general. 12 Kingdoms. It's an isekai before isekai went to shit. Great female protagonist. The world is horrifying but super aesthetic to look at. Hunter x Hunter. It's got the best magic system, the best villains, incredibly character driven despite its epic scope. The writing is just unreplicable in every way possible. Hoseki no Kuni. It's got characters who live thousands of years and it mixes science fiction and fantasy in the most creative way possible. Dorohedoro. Impossible to describe, steampunk, dystopian, unpredictable, gory, high fantasy, cool as hell. Claymore. The Witcher meets Barbie, and I say this in the best way possible. Akatsuki no Yuna. It's got an amazingly written female protagonist, the most beautiful romance ever, and it has a very Eastern inspired fantasy world. The Record of Lotus War. The fantasy anime with all of the hot elves and the beautiful 90s aesthetic. Berserk. The darkest high fantasy manga I've ever read, but arguably also the kindest one at the same time. It's got the best art ever, it's got one of the greatest protagonists ever. Devilman. It's the daddy of your favorite monster hunting battle shonen, and it does it better than almost all of the new ones out there, so give it a try. Nausicaa. The most incredible blend of high fantasy, steampunk and post-apocalyptic fiction. Sunny Boy. Weird, experimental, polarizing. It showcases the potential of isekai if it weren't so chained by the marketing value that the genre is limited by. Wolf's Rain. Wolfmen search for a paradise in a dystopian society. Fullmetal Alchemist. You should be ashamed of yourself if you haven't seen or read this masterpiece. Sailor Moon. Stop being a misogynist and give the most iconic magical girl anime or manga a try. You wouldn't know if it's for you without actually seeing it. Cardcaptor Sakura. And again, start taking these magical girl shows with the respect that they deserve. It might blow you away, who knows, you haven't seen it. Umineko When They Cry. Murder mystery set in an isolated island. It mixes fantasy and mystery in the most ambitious, greatest way possible. It's got incredible characters, it's got an incredible narrative. There is nothing else like it on this list. Attack on Titan. It's freaking Attack on Titan. The Tale of Princess Kaguya. It's in my opinion the most ambitious Ghibli anime. It's got incredible visuals, it's got very unique visuals, and it's got a story that feels very heartfelt and timeless. Princess Mononoke. It's got mystical creatures, it's got a very pretty looking woman, and to top it all off, it tells a very compelling tale of nature versus industrialization. Spirited Away. It's freaking Spirited Away. It's the most iconic Ghibli film. Ponyo. Spirited Away, but it's got a theme of underwater and it's more adorable to watch. Castle in the Sky. Ghibli anime with a floating city that holds ancient secrets. It's a great adventure fantasy. The Boy and the Heroine. It's the hardest Ghibli anime to describe. Everything magical is wrapped up in a very weird journey of self-discovery, free reign beyond journey's end. It's in my opinion easily the best new anime of the last 4 years. Pandora Hearts. It's gothic, it's mysterious, it's experimental in weird ways, it's got incredible plot twists. I call it the sibling of Fullmetal Alchemist. Jujutsu Kaisen. The most popular new anime out there, so I don't think I need to describe it. Darker Than Black. It's a supernatural action. Contractors with incredible powers execute realistic spy missions, I guess. It's got awesome rules for its magic system, it's grounded and it's really depressing. ReZero. It's a time looping fiction where the main character dies again and again to save the people around him. I'm not really a huge fan of it, but everyone loves it, so you might as well. Kyoso Giga. I have no clue what this is about, but it looks super cool, so I'm kind of trusting my instinct here and just recommending to you based on that. Ushio Totora. I haven't seen this one either, but it looks genuinely cool, and it's made by the people or the core staff that made Hunter x Hunter 2011. Madoka Magica. It's a magical girl anime but super dark and super unpredictable. Tokyo Ghoul. Half human, half ghoul type of person, lives in a messed up Japanese society and continuously questions his own moralities. D. Grey Man. Victorian, historical low fantasy, gothic battle shonen with great characters. Bride of Daimyos. A fallen demon finds the reincarnation of his dead sister and he wants to marry her. Not for anything weird, but to resurrect her. Kara no Kyokai. Atmospheric, supernatural, psychological, depressing urban fantasy. Maggie. Oriental adventure fantasy that you can't help but fall in love with. It's also got a better version of Gojo in the series. Toriko. Toriko feels like a spin-off of Hunter x Hunter. Hunters with bizarre abilities catch the most exotic creatures just to eat them. It's adventurous, it's a fun world to explore, the characters are fun. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Bizarre, flamboyant, it's a story that spans 200 years. It's got the weirdest magic system ever, it's got the coolest magic system ever. Haibane Renmei. It's an atmospheric slice of life fantasy where people get reincarnated as angels in a very eerie, mysterious world. Mushishi. It's an episodic masterpiece of an anime that follows a guy who wants to solve different problems caused by magical creatures. It's very unique, each episodes are super unique and different and awesome. Natsume Yujincho. An orphan boy with the ability to see supernatural beings navigate his lonely life despite having the ability to see double the people that normal people can have. No game, no life. It's an isekai, but it's an isekai with a focus on mind games and overpowering your opponents through sheer strategies. It's fun, it's colorful, it's flamboyant, it's aesthetically very pleasing to watch. Dies Irae. It's a visual novel, but I cannot help but recommend it if you are a fan of fantasy and action. It's epic, it's otherworldly, it's got incredible villains. Monogatari. It's visually the most incredible thing ever. It's supernatural, it's incredibly character driven, it's eccentric, it's weird, it's got a great ensemble cast. Spice and Wolf. A traveling merchant dude travels alongside a pretty wolf girl goddess. It's a medieval adventure fantasy, it's romantic, it's got a lot of economics. Seiri no Moribito. Haven't really seen it yet. It looks like an epic fantasy with a great female protagonist. Kekkai Sensen. New York becomes a bridge between our world and the world of monsters. It's stylish, it's chaotic, it's just got a lot of fun vibes. Shingeki no Bahamut. It's a flamboyant action anime with gods and demons. It's epic in scale, yet it doesn't take itself too seriously, which adds to a lot of the fun adventure aspect of the series. Shinsekai Yori. Dystopian, post-apocalyptic, horrific, creepy, intelligent high fantasy or taxi. It's a great story about animal people. It's weirdly very normal, it's psychological, it's a great crime drama, it's got a lot of amazing mysteries that all pay off in the best way possible. Beastars. It's another animal people story, but it's super different from Odd Taxi. It is focused more on the nature of people, of the ugly instinct that every one of us have. Modao Sushi. I think it's the way that you pronounce it. It's got an Eastern fantasy world, it's a Chinese animation, it's got a different unorthodox style of storytelling. I think it's worth a watch. Castlevania. Castlevania is a Western animation, but since the source material is Japanese, I thought it'd be a great idea to add it as well. It's a gothic vampire dark fantasy anime, and it's got a really fun aesthetic to it. Bleach. Bleach is the ultimate example of a stylish substance anime when it comes to the fantasy genre. It's got great action, it's got some cool looking characters, it's got a unique power system. Basara. A rebel girl fights an oppressive regime. It's a revenge story, it's an epic fantasy, it's got an enemies to lovers trope if that's your thing. Origami. A god who is struggling to gain new worshippers starts granting people's wishes alongside a human girl. It's adventurous, it's action-packed, it's hilarious, it's a genuinely adorable show. Chainsaw Man. It's got a generic premise about a devil hunter human who uses chainsaw powers to hunt devils. But what makes it special is its understanding and writing of teenage characters and their actual problems. It's all of fate. Historical figures from different time periods get summoned to fight against each other, and the winner gets a wish granted to them. It's ambitious, it's action packed, it's got a great ensemble cast, it's creative, it's weirdly quirky, it has a lot of interesting things to say. Kyokai no Kanata, urban fantasy, monster killing, it has a weird moe charm about it that you expect from Kyoto Animation. Log Horizon, it's an isekai but with a focus on the economics of the world and building a completely new society from scratch. It is surprisingly well thought out and interesting to watch. Naruto, iconic, has the best fights in high fantasy, tugs on your emotions really well. It's actually kind of underrated in today's age. If you're a young person who didn't grow up with Naruto, I suggest you guys give it a try. You'll definitely be surprised at how good the series is. The Promised Neverland. Orphan children try to escape a whole world that is quite literally after them. It's creepy, it's a psychological thriller, it's kind of post-apocalyptic. It's a great read, at least until the final arc. One Punch Man. An overpowered superhero beats up every enemy with a single punch. It's got great comedy, it's got great action, it's kind of existential as well. It is kind of embarrassing to describe the series because it is quite popular, but it is about 10 years old, so I thought I'd describe it anyway. Ajin. It's a chaotic urban fantasy focused on cinematic action. I highly recommend checking it out despite having nothing unique or interesting to say about it. Mob Psycho 100, the greatest coming of age story based on a slice of life urban fantasy. It is a must watch regardless of what your taste in stories is. Re-Cutie Honey. It's a magical superhero girl series. It's vibrant, it's playful, it's stylish, it's kind of iconic. Ancient Mage's Bride. An ugly monster marries a pretty young woman. It's a bizarre slice of life that is set in a very classic Western fantasy. But the world feels extremely lived in and very unique. A Girl from the Other Side. Ugly monster takes care of a young girl. It's atmospheric, it's creepy, it's mysterious, it's got a lot of great found family aspects to it. Little Witch Academia. Harry Potter, but it is an all-girls school. It's a super charming series with a really distinct art style. Death Parade. A supernatural bar tortures people to see what their inside looks like. It's atmospheric, it's a psychological thriller, it's got a lot of strong human themes. It's an incredible anime. Triple X Holic. A mystical shop helps people uncover their deepest, darkest secrets and potentially help them. It's kind of similar to Death Parade in a way. Katana Gatari. Historical fantasy, great action, great romance, aesthetically stylish. Soul Eater. Action high fantasy anime with an awesome Halloween aesthetic. Nagino Asukara. Underwater teenagers go to a normal school up above the surface and have to face various prejudices and discrimination. It's a coming of age story with a lot of romance and a lot of emotional storytelling. It's got a really beautiful underwater world as well. Angel Beats. Children who die before reaching adulthood get sent to this afterlife. It has a lot of interesting conversations about death and about grief. Kill la Kill. Flamboyant, bizarre, high octane, surprisingly deep and genuinely exciting from start to finish. Recreators. Recreators is kind of like Fate, but instead of historical characters coming to real life, fictional characters from all kinds of stories appear in real life and fight with each other and connect with their own creators. Erin. It looks very cool and underrated, but I actually haven't seen this one. It looks like a hero's adventure story with a classic great 2000s anime aesthetic. Heaven Official's Blessing. Immortal gay Chinese gods investigate different things about their weird universe while getting to know each other intimately. Children of the Whales. A high fantasy with a very unique isolated world and an anime production that is just so different from most other anime. Bungoa Stray Dogs. Pretty men fight each other in a very pretty way in a very pretty urban fantasy. Hakume and Mikochi. Little people live their adorable little lives. It's extremely soothing and charming to read. Ran in the Grey World. Magical adventure, dysfunctional family, coming of age story, incredible artwork. Children of the Sea. I actually haven't seen this one, but it is probably my most anticipated fantasy anime right now. Every one of my friends absolutely adore it, and I'm pretty sure we would as well. Ascendance of a Bookworm. It's an isekai anime, but with a more thoughtful, soothing tone to it, and a very adorable bookworm female protagonist. Vampire Hunter D. A futuristic dark fantasy gothic anime about vampires. Dracula Midnight Children. A dark psychological thriller with incredible artwork. It's kind of horrific. It's a direct adaptation of the book Dracula, and it is by a mangaka that is absolutely worth your time. Fairy Tail. Look, Fairy Tail might have many flaws, but no one can deny that it is a very soulful series. It has so much charm to it that is quite honestly lacking in a lot of modern battle shonens. Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. It's a surreal, quirky, cosmic battle shonen. Dororo. A blind and disabled main character tries his best in order to survive a brutal dark world with a little orphan child. Inuyasha. A classic battle shonen from the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's an Eastern fantasy that is just great to read or watch. It's got time travel elements, it's got demons, it's got romance, it's got pretty characters, it's got a lot of great things about it. Kubera. An epic fantasy that is centering around a young girl's quest for revenge in a very mythological complex world. It is kind of like a huge epic book but in a manga format. My Hero Academia. It's literally My Hero Academia, I don't have to describe it. Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun. Actually haven't read this one, but for the silly comedy kind of fantasy, this seems perfect. Made in Abyss. Children suffer brutally at the hands of a beautiful looking fantasy world. Case study of Vanitas. Pretty vampires, intriguing mysteries, cool world to explore, gay undertones. Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles. It's another series that I haven't read, so I can't really describe it well. But it's by a fantastic author, so I do think it's worth adding here. Kemonosume. Horror, supernatural, weird, bold, Hellsing Ultimate, hard-boiled vampire action, dungeon meshi. Fantasy characters raid dungeons and feast on monsters. Princess Tutu. It is the best dark fairy tale story in anime. Thank you for getting this far into the video. Please share it to your friends if you enjoyed it. It took me a while to make it, so please subscribe if you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.